The mountains had already swallowed the sun by the time I saw the sign. Millbrook, population 847, established 1872. The number looked hand-painted, fresh, though the rest of the sign showed decades of weather damage. Fog rolled down from the ridges like something with intention, pooling in the valley below where the town waited. My headlights cut through it in weak cones, illuminating nothing but more gray. I'd been documenting dying Appalachian towns for 3 years, photographing the beautiful decay before it disappeared entirely. Millbrook wasn't even on most maps anymore. I'd found it referenced in a historical society forum, a footnote about preserved Victorian architecture. Perfect for my project. A town that time forgot. Main Street appeared suddenly through the fog, and I had to brake hard. The street looked like a museum exhibit. Brick storefronts with painted advertisements from the 1950s, intact plate glass windows, gas lamps converted to electric but styled to look original. Not a car in sight, not a person visible, just silent buildings standing shoulder to shoulder, watching the empty street. I parked in front of the Millbrook Inn, a 3-story Victorian painted dark green with white gingerbread trim. Impressive craftsmanship, well-maintained. The porch light was on, warm and inviting. I grabbed my camera bag and was reaching for the door handle when I saw her. 3rd floor, middle window. A woman in a white dress, standing perfectly still, looking down at me. She was just visible through the lace curtains, pale dress, dark hair, hands at her sides, completely motionless. At first I thought she was a mannequin, some kind of decoration. But then I felt it, the weight of her gaze. She was watching me, not casually glancing out a window, but staring with focused intensity. I raised my hand in an awkward wave. She didn't react, didn't move, just kept staring. The moment stretched uncomfortably long. Then I grabbed my gear and headed inside, feeling ridiculous for being unnerved by a woman in a window. The inn's interior matched the exterior, meticulously preserved Victorian decor, floral wallpaper, antique furniture that actually looked used rather than staged. An elderly woman sat behind the front desk, reading a book by lamplight. She looked up as I entered, and I noticed she didn't quite meet my eyes. "I called ahead," I said. "Reservation for Mason Cole." She nodded slowly, pulling out an actual leather-bound registration book, not a computer in sight. Her hands were thin and spotted with age, trembling slightly as she wrote. "You're in room 7, 2nd floor." "I thought I saw someone on the 3rd floor when I pulled up," I said, signing the book. "Is that floor occupied?" Her pen stopped. She didn't look up. "3rd floor's closed." "Oh, I just saw a woman in the window and—" "3rd floor's closed," she repeated more firmly. She slid a brass key across the desk, an actual key, not a key card. "Breakfast is at 7. Don't wander the halls at night." "Excuse me." She finally met my eyes, and something in her expression made my skin prickle. "You saw her already," she said. It wasn't a question. "Then you won't be staying long. They never do." Before I could respond, she stood and disappeared through a doorway behind the desk, leaving me alone in the lobby with her cryptic warning hanging in the air. Room 7 was clean and Spartan. Brass bed, antique wardrobe, a single window overlooking Main Street. I unpacked my camera equipment, trying to shake off the odd welcome. Small towns had their peculiarities. Eccentric locals were part of the charm. The light was almost gone, but I decided to walk Main Street and scout locations for tomorrow's shoot. The fog had thickened, reducing visibility to maybe 30 feet. The streetlights were on now, creating islands of yellow illumination in the gray. I started photographing immediately. The hardware store with its faded, Millbrook Hardware, Est 1883 sign. The old theater with showtimes still posted from 1994. The soda fountain with its metal stools visible through the window. Everything was unlocked by time but untouched, as if the town had simply stopped one day and never started again. I was lining up a shot of the old post office when I felt it again. That weight, that awareness of being watched. I looked up at the post office's second-floor window. She was there, same white dress, same dark hair, same utterly still posture, staring down at me. My hand tightened on the camera. This wasn't the inn. This was 2 buildings down from where I'd first seen her. The woman had moved. Or, another woman in an identical white dress was also watching me from another window. In a seemingly empty town, I lowered the camera. "Hello." My voice was too loud in the quiet street. She didn't respond, didn't move, just stared. I took a photo, the flash briefly illuminating the window. When my vision cleared, she was gone. The window was empty, curtains still. My heart rate picked up. I walked 20 feet down the street to photograph the theater. Through the viewfinder, I framed the marquee, the Art Deco details, She was in the theater's second-floor window. Same position, same dress, watching me. I spun around, actually looking at the post office window I just left. Empty. I turned back to the theater. She was still there, now visible to my naked eye. Pale face in the window, unmoving. What the hell? I whispered. I walked faster now, not running, but definitely not leisurely. I photographed the old bank building. She appeared in its window. The drugstore, she was there too, always on the second floor, always in that white dress, always watching. Every building I passed, she followed, window to window, tracking my progress down the street. The temperature had dropped, or maybe it was just fear making me cold. I stopped in the middle of the street, breathing hard. All around me, in a dozen different windows up and down Main Street, I could see her. The same woman, simultaneously present in multiple locations, all of them watching me. I ran. My boots pounded on the brick sidewalk as I sprinted back toward the inn. The fog seemed thicker now, harder to see through. I skidded around the corner, the inn coming into view. She was in my window, room 7, second floor, looking down at the street, at me, but I was out here. My room was empty. I'd locked the door. I stopped running, breath coming in gasps that plumed white in the cold air. She stood in my window, hands against the glass now, pale face pressed close. Her mouth was moving, saying something I couldn't hear. Her breath fogged the window from inside. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course there was no signal. The innkeeper's words came back. "You saw her already. Then you won't be staying long." Other people had seen her. Other people had left quickly. I understood why, but I'm a photographer. I document things. Whatever this was, projection, prank, mass hallucination, I could prove it wasn't real. I forced my legs to move, walking toward the inn's front entrance. The woman in my window tracked my movement, hands sliding across the glass as she turned to follow me. The lobby was empty. The building was silent except for the creak of old wood settling. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, my footsteps too loud. The hallway stretched ahead, dim bulbs in antique fixtures providing barely enough light. Room 7's door was closed, locked. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. No movement, no breathing, nothing. I unlocked the door and pushed it open slowly. The room was empty. The window showed only fog and darkness outside. No woman in a white dress. No handprints on the glass. Relief flooded through me. followed immediately by embarrassment. I'd let a small town's ghost story get under my skin. The woman was probably a resident, maybe developmentally disabled or mentally ill, and I'd turned her into some kind of supernatural stalker in my paranoid mind. I sat on the bed and started reviewing the photos I'd taken. The hardware store shot looked good. The post office had nice architectural details. The theater's marquee was. My hands went numb. I almost dropped the camera. In every photo visible in the windows above my intended subjects, she was there. Not clear, but visible enough. A pale figure in white. In the post office window. The bank window, the drugstore, the theater. Every single building I'd photographed. And in each image, she was looking directly at the camera. At me. I zoomed in on the theater photo. Her face was clearer than the others. Mouth open, eyes wide, dark hair falling past her shoulders, and her expression, it wasn't menacing. It was pleading, desperate. She was trying to tell me something. A sound made me look up. Scratching, coming from the window. She was there. Outside my second-floor window, hovering in the fog, no ground beneath her feet. Face pressed against the glass, hands clawing at it weakly. Her mouth moved. Help me, help me, help me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She wasn't threatening me, she was begging. How? I managed to whisper, her hand lifted, one finger extended, pointing. Down. She was pointing down toward the ground floor, toward something below. Then she faded, dissolving into the fog like she'd never been there at all. I didn't sleep. I sat in that room with every light on, reviewing photos, trying to understand. Who was she? What did she need? Why me? At dawn, I went downstairs. The innkeeper was in the same spot, reading the same book. She looked up when I entered, unsurprised. The woman in the white dress, I said. Who is she? The innkeeper's expression didn't change. You mean Margaret Millbrook. She's been dead since 1892. She's always watching, always looking for someone to find her. Find her? What does that mean? Her body, the old woman said quietly. They never found her body after she fell, or jumped, or was pushed. Depends on who tells the story. She disappeared from the third-floor window. They searched for weeks. No trace. But she's still here, still looking out those windows, still waiting for someone to find her and put her to rest. My mouth was dry. Where should I look? Basement, under the foundation. But nobody wants to look. This whole town pretends she's not there, even though we all see her. Every day, every night, watching from the windows, waiting. I spent the morning getting permission to excavate, calling authorities, explaining what I'd experienced. They were skeptical until I showed them the photos. Then they got quiet. Then they made calls. They found her that afternoon. Skeletal remains in a sealed space beneath the inn's foundation, hidden behind a bricked-up section of basement wall. Signs of trauma to the skull. Murder, not suicide. Buried where no one would find her. Forgotten by a town that wanted to forget. I left Millbrook that evening. As I drove away, I looked back at the town one last time. In every window along Main Street, she was visible. But now she was waving, both hands raised, finally free. The population sign as I left had changed. Someone had painted over the number. It now read, Population 846. The first time it happened, I thought it was a joke. Bad service, maybe, or the waitress was having an off day. I'd been coming to Rosie's diner every morning for 3 weeks. Same time, same booth, same order. Coffee, black, wheat toast, scrambled eggs. Simple routine. Teacher routine. But that Tuesday morning when I walked in, Rosie looked at me like I'd materialized from thin air. Help you? She asked the way you'd ask a stranger. Not rude, just blank. No recognition in her eyes. I laughed. Same as always, Rosie. You trying to get me to try something new? She glanced at the other waitress, then back at me. Have we met before? The laugh died in my throat. I've been coming here for 3 weeks. Every morning, you know my name, Claire Hartwell. I'm sorry, hun, she said slowly, like speaking to someone confused. I don't recall, but welcome to Rosie's. What can I get you? I stood there, mouth open, trying to understand if this was some elaborate small-town hazing ritual. But Rosie's confusion looked genuine. Concerned, even, like I was the one acting strange. I gave my order again. She wrote it down, checking twice like she couldn't trust her memory. The whole interaction felt wrong, disjointed, like reality had skipped a frame. Maybe she'd been sick, I told myself. Memory issues, early dementia. It happened. But then it happened again at the library. I'd gotten my library card 2 weeks earlier, filled out the paperwork, took the little photo, listened to Mrs. Chen explain the return policy. I'd even checked out 3 books on Appalachian folklore for my lesson plans. When I went back Tuesday afternoon to return them, Mrs. Chen looked at my card like it was foreign currency. This isn't one of ours, she said, turning it over in her hands. The format's wrong. Where did you get this? From you. 2 weeks ago, you processed the application. She squinted at me over her glasses. I've been head librarian for 12 years. I process every new card personally. I've never seen you before in my life. The books I tried to return, not in their system, never checked out. When I showed her my stamped due date cards, she looked at them like they were written in another language. These aren't our stamps, she insisted. I don't know what this is, but you can't return books we don't have records of. I left the library feeling like I was losing my mind. 2 people, same day, acting like I didn't exist, like our previous interactions had never happened. At school that afternoon, it got worse. I'd been teaching 3rd grade English for 3 weeks. My classroom was room 14. My name was on the door, Ms. Hartwell. 23 students knew me, responded to me, turned in homework to me. I'd had parent-teacher conferences. I'd submitted grades. I existed in the school's ecosystem. But when I walked into the teacher's lounge, the principal walked right past me. Didn't say hello, didn't acknowledge me. I called out to him, Mr. Reynolds. And he turned around with that same blank expression. Yes. Can I help you? It's Claire Hartwell. We had a meeting yesterday about the curriculum update. He shook his head slowly. I'm sorry, I don't. Have we met? Are you interviewing for a position? My blood went cold. I have a position, room 14, 3rd grade. I've been teaching here for 3 weeks. He looked at me with growing concern. Room 14 is our storage room. We don't have a 3rd grade position open. Our 3rd grade is covered by Mrs. Patterson and Mr. Cole. That's not. I teach there every day. I have students. I have lesson plans. My name is on the door. Ma'am, I think there's been some confusion. Would you like to sit down? You look pale. I ran down the hallway toward room 14, my classroom. I'd been there this morning. I'd taught 1st period. The classroom door had my name on it. I skidded to a stop in front of room 14. The door had a paper sign, storage keep locked. Through the small window, I could see boxes, cleaning supplies, stacked chairs, no desks, no posters. No sign that 23 children learned there every day, but I had the key. In my pocket, the key to my classroom. I pulled it out with shaking hands and unlocked the door. Storage room. Just like he said, dust-covered boxes. The smell of old paper and cleaning chemicals. Not a classroom. Never a classroom. I heard voices approaching, my third period class. I ran to the corner, desperate to see if they'd recognize me, acknowledge me, prove I wasn't going insane. 23 children walked past room 14 and continued down the hall. I followed them, watching as they filed into room 16. A woman I'd never seen before greeted them at the door. "Good afternoon, class. Take your seats." My students, sitting down, getting out their notebooks, learning from a different teacher, I stepped into the doorway. "Excuse me, these are my students. I teach this class." The substitute teacher, except she wasn't a substitute, she had photos on the desk, personal items, a name placard. Mrs. Chen looked at me with polite confusion. "I'm sorry. Can I help you with something?" These students, I've been teaching them for 3 weeks. One of my students, Emma, a bright girl who always sat in the front row, looked up at me. "Who are you?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Emma, it's Ms. Hartwell. You turned in your book report to me yesterday, on Where the Red Fern Grows. You wrote about how you cried at the ending." Emma's face scrunched up. "I didn't write a book report, and I don't know you." I looked at each student. Blank faces. No recognition. No memory of me. 23 children I'd taught, encouraged, graded, remembered, and I was invisible to them. Mrs. Chen's voice was firm now. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you don't, I'll call security." I stumbled backward into the hallway. A teacher I'd eaten lunch with yesterday walked past, chatting with another teacher, not seeing me. Students flowed around me like water around a stone. There but not there. Present but unacknowledged, I went home. My apartment, I'd signed a lease, moved in, paid rent. Surely there I'd find proof. Evidence that I existed, that I was real. The apartment was still mine, my furniture, my photos, my mail. Inside these 4 walls I existed, I had substance. History, proof. I called my mother. She'd visited me 2 weeks ago, helped me set up the place. She'd seen Harmon, met my principal, eaten at Rosie's diner. She'd tell me I wasn't crazy. "Hello." Her voice familiar and comforting. "Mom, it's me, Claire. I need to." "I'm sorry," she interrupted gently. "You must have the wrong number." "Mom, it's Claire, your daughter, please." "I don't have a daughter," she said, not unkindly, just stating a fact. "I think you've misdialed. I hope you reach who you're looking for." She hung up. I tried my brother, my best friend from college, my former roommate. Each one answered. Each one spoke to me like a confused stranger. None of them knew who I was. I didn't sleep that night. I sat surrounded by photos of myself, documents with my name, proof of my existence. But it only existed in this apartment. Outside, I was nothing, a ghost, a glitch, something that shouldn't be here. The next morning, I tried the bank. I had an account, a debit card, money, transactions. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the teller said after 10 minutes of typing. "There's no account under that name. And this card number, it's not in our system. Are you sure you bank with us?" I showed her my deposit slips, my statements, my account number. She called the manager. They examined everything I brought like it was evidence of a crime, spoke in hushed voices. Eventually, the manager asked me where I'd gotten these falsified documents. "They're not falsified. This is my account. I deposited my paycheck here 2 weeks ago." "Ma'am," he said carefully, "we have no record of you, no application, no social security number on file. These documents, wherever you got them, aren't from this bank." I went to the DMV. My driver's license came back invalid. The photo was me, but the number didn't exist in their system. Same with my car registration, my social security card. Everything that proved my identity was real to me but fiction to everyone else. I was disappearing. Not physically, I could see myself in mirrors, feel my body, exist in physical space. But legally, socially, officially, I was vanishing, being erased. That's when I started researching. Harmon's history, local archives, old newspaper records. The library might not remember me, but their archives were online, public access. I found it on the third day of searching. A small article from October 1987. Local teacher dies in Route 23 accident. The photo was grainy, black and white, but the face was unmistakably mine. Same eyes, same smile, same Claire Hartwell. Claire Hartwell, 26, new third-grade teacher at Harmon Elementary, died Tuesday evening when her vehicle left Route 23 during heavy rain. Hartwell, who had been teaching in Harmon for 3 weeks, was pronounced dead at the scene. She is survived by her mother, Jean Hartwell of Asheville, and brother, Marcus Hartwell of Charlotte. I read it 3 times, 4 times. The words didn't change. I died 36 years ago. I died 3 weeks after starting to teach in Harmon. I died on Route 23, the same road I drive every day. But I'm here, I'm alive, I'm real, except I'm not to anyone but myself. I found more articles, photos from my funeral, obituary with details about my life that matched my memories. I attended Michigan State. I majored in education. I moved to Harmon in September 1987. I died 3 weeks later, the apartment I'm living in. I looked up the address. It's been abandoned since the 1990s. Condemned. Scheduled for demolition. But when I look around, I see furniture, working lights, food in the refrigerator. I went outside to check. The building looked decrepit from the outside. Broken windows, peeling paint, a condemned notice on the door. I went back inside. Clean, furnished. Mine, I exist only in the spaces between, in the memory of what was. A ghost who doesn't know she's dead. The town remembers, even if individuals don't. That's why people forget me. Why I disappear from records, from memories, from existence. I'm not supposed to be here. I died in 1987. I'm the echo of a person who never got to finish her teaching career, never got to have her life. I'm writing this now because I don't know how much longer I'll remember. If the town is forgetting me, maybe I'm forgetting me too. Maybe soon I'll forget I'm dead, forget I'm a ghost. I'll just continue, teaching students who don't see me. Living in an apartment that isn't there, driving roads that lead nowhere. The woman at Rosie's diner forgot me. The librarian forgot me. My students forgot me. My own mother doesn't know I exist. Tomorrow I might forget myself. And maybe that's better. Maybe that's how ghosts survive, by forgetting they died. I saw my classroom today, room 14. Through the window, I could see students at desks, my name on the board, my lesson plan on the desk. But when I opened the door, it was just storage again. Boxes and dust. I'm teaching students who aren't there. Living a life that ended in 1987. And slowly, peacefully, fading into whatever comes after you realize you're already gone. If you're reading this and you remember me, Claire Hartwell, 3rd grade teacher, Harmon Elementary, please know I was real. I existed. Even if only for 3 weeks. Even if only as a ghost who didn't know she was haunting. I existed. I existed. I'd been volunteering at the Ridgeway Historical Society for 6 months before I found the tape. Not much happened in our small Appalachian town, and I liked history, liked preserving things. So 3 afternoons a week I'd catalog dusty boxes of documents, photographs, and ephemera that nobody else cared about. Mrs. Everett, the society's president, was just happy someone under 70 showed interest. The basement was my domain. 3 rooms of filing cabinets, shelves, and boxes stretching back to the town's founding in 1834. Most of it was mundane: property records, business licenses, school yearbooks. But occasionally I'd find something interesting. Love letters from the Civil War, photographs of buildings long demolished, the small human details that made history breathe. The water-damaged box was in the back corner, behind a filing cabinet. I only found it because I was measuring the space for new shelving. The cardboard was soft with moisture, darkened with mold, and someone had written Town Council 1962 discard in faded marker. Inside were moldy papers, mostly illegible, and a few items wrapped in deteriorating plastic. One was a reel-to-reel tape, unmarked, the tape itself brittle and spotted with mildew. The plastic had protected it somewhat, but it was still in rough shape. I should have thrown it out. That's what the box instructions said. But I'm a historian. I don't throw things out. I preserve them. It took me 2 weeks to find a working reel-to-reel player. Mr. Patterson, who owned the local music shop, had one in his back room, hadn't touched it in years. He helped me gently clean the tape and thread it onto the machine. "Don't expect much," he warned. "Water damage usually ruins magnetic tape." But when he pressed play, after a few minutes of static and warbling, voices emerged. Men's voices. A meeting of some kind. Formal language, procedural. The town council. "Bringing us to the matter of Mrs. Sarah Harper," one voice said, older, authoritative. "She's made serious allegations against several members of this body." "Lies," another voice interrupted, younger, aggressive. "Baseless lies from a disturbed woman." "She claims to have evidence," the first voice continued. "Letters, photographs, financial records showing misappropriation of town funds." "She has no evidence," a third voice said, cold and measured. "She's invented a fantasy to explain her husband's drinking. The woman is unwell." Then a woman's voice, clear despite the tape's age. "I'm not unwell. I have proof. I have documents showing you've been embezzling from town contracts for 5 years. I have letters showing collusion with contractors. I have photographs of money changing hands." "Mrs. Harper," the authoritative voice said, "these are serious accusations. Slander, potentially. We could pursue legal action." "Pursue it," she said, and I could hear the tremor in her voice, not fear but anger. "I want this in court. I want everyone to know what you've done." Silence on the tape, then shuffling sounds. Movement. "Mrs. Harper, I think we should discuss this privately," one voice said. "No, I want this on record. I want." "Thomas, close that door." More shuffling, the woman's voice rising. "What are you doing? Don't." "Sarah, you need to understand something." The cold, measured voice again. "You've made a mistake, a serious mistake, coming here, making accusations, threatening us. I have copies, hidden, if anything happens to me." "Nothing's going to happen to you." But the way he said it made my skin crawl. "You're going to leave this meeting. You're going to go home. You're going to forget this nonsense." "No, I won't. I'm going to the state police tomorrow. I'm going to..." The sound changed. A struggle, gasping. The woman's voice pleading now. "Stop, please stop." I can't breathe. Please. Thumping, scraping, horrible, wet sounds, then silence. When the voices returned, they were calm, discussing. The old well house, one said. No one uses it anymore. Concrete, another agreed. Quicklime deep enough. What about her car? Lake, tomorrow night. I know a place where the drop-off is deep. And if people ask? She was unstable. Everyone knew. Drove to Asheville, probably, or Charleston. Women like that, they run away, start over, happens all the time. More discussion of logistics, cover-up, alibis, spoken in the same tone you'd use to discuss town budgeting or road repair. Calm, practical, monstrous. The tape ran out. Static filled the room. I sat there, frozen, listening to white noise. Mr. Patterson's face was pale. That was... He couldn't finish. A confession, I said. A recording of a murder. I researched Sarah Harper that night. Found her name in the 1962 phone directory. Found a single newspaper article from August of that year, small, on page 7. Local woman missing. Sarah Harper, 29, was reported missing by her husband James Harper on August 15th. Harper was last seen leaving a town council meeting on the evening of August 14th. Anyone with information should contact Sheriff Thomas Mallory. That was it, one article, then nothing, no follow-ups, no investigation results, no body found. She simply disappeared from the record. I found her husband's name in the 1963 directory. By 1964, he was gone too, moved away, I assumed. Couldn't stay in a town that had killed his wife. The voices on the tape were harder to identify. No names used, just Thomas once, but there were ways to figure it out. Town council minutes were public record. I could find out who served in 1962, who was in that room. I spent days in the archives. Found the council roster from 1962, 7 members. I cross-referenced with phone directories, property records, death certificates. By the end of the week, I had names. Thomas Mallory, sheriff, council member, died 1989. Richard Doyle Mayer, died 1995. James Patterson, businessman, died 2003. George Whitmore, banker, died 1997. Carl Henderson, lawyer, died 2008. Robert Brennan, contractor, died 2016. Michael Evers, undertaker, died 2011. All dead now. All buried in Ridgeway Cemetery. All lived long, respectable lives. Pillars of the community. Main Street had a Brennan Boulevard. The library was the Henderson Memorial Library. These men were heroes in this town's history, and they'd murdered Sarah Harper and sealed her in a well house 50 years ago. I should have gone to the police, but what could they do? Everyone involved was dead. The crime was 60 years old, and I had a tape that might not even be admissible as evidence found in a box marked for disposal, so I kept investigating. Where was the old well house? The one they'd mentioned on the tape. Property records showed several well houses in Ridgeway's history, most demolished in the 1970s when municipal water came through. But one remained on the edge of town on property now owned by the water company. Abandoned, sealed up, forgot. Just like Sarah Harper. But here's what made everything worse. Here's when I learned that some murders don't end, even when everyone involved is dead. It started the first night after I listened to the full tape. At exactly 9:47 p.m., the timestamp the reel-to-reel player showed for the beginning of the recording, I heard sounds from the Historical Society basement. I was upstairs, locking up for the night. The building was empty, just me. But from below, muffled but clear, I heard voices, men's voices, discussing. I stood at the top of the basement stairs, listening. The words were too muffled to make out individual sentences, but the tone was clear. Formal, a meeting, then a woman's voice, rising in pitch, arguing, then the sounds of struggle. I ran down the stairs. The basement was empty. Silent, dark, but the sounds had been real. I'd heard them clear as anything. The next night at 9:47 p.m. it happened again. I wasn't even at the Historical Society. I was home a mile away. But at exactly 9:47 I heard it. Voices in my head. No, actual sounds coming from somewhere, nowhere. The same conversation, the same woman pleading, the same horrible sounds of murder. It was the recording playing out in real time. An echo burned into reality. A residual haunting, replaying the same moment over and over 50 years later. And now that I'd heard it, I couldn't unhear it. Every night, 9:47 p.m., the murder played out. Wherever I was, whatever I was doing. The sounds came through. I tried leaving town, drove 2 hours to Asheville. At 9:47 p.m. in my hotel room, I heard it. The voices. The struggle, Sarah Harper dying, I couldn't escape it. By listening to that tape, by uncovering that murder, I'd become connected to it. The town's secret had been kept for 60 years, and now that someone knew, really knew, the haunting had begun. Mrs. Everett found me at the Historical Society one afternoon looking exhausted. I'd stopped sleeping. How could I sleep, knowing what was coming at 9:47 every night? "You found something," she said. Not a question. I nodded. "The tape," she continued. "In the basement. The town council meeting from 1962. I stared at her. You knew it was there." "3 other volunteers have found it over the years," she said quietly. Each one heard the same thing. Each one started experiencing the replay. We tried destroying the tape. Burned it in 2001. But a year later, another volunteer found it again, in the same box, in the same corner. You can't destroy it. You can only live with it. What happened to the other volunteers? She looked away. One moved out of state, another. She paused. She went to the old well house, looking for Sarah's remains. Something happened there. They found her the next morning. Heart attack, the coroner said, but her face. She died afraid. My voice shook. What do I do? "What Sarah wants you to do," Mrs. Everett said. "Find her. Bring her home. Give her the burial she never got. Maybe then she'll stop calling out, stop replaying her death." The old well house wasn't hard to find. The hard part was getting permission from the water company to excavate. But when I played them the tape, yes, it still existed, still playable, still confessing to murder, they agreed. Police got involved, Historical Society, even a forensic team from the state university. We found her 3 days later, exactly where the tape said she'd be. Skeletal remains in a sealed well shaft, covered with concrete and quick lime just like they'd discussed. Her personal effects were still with her: purse, watch, wedding ring. And in a waterproof document case clutched in her skeletal hands, the evidence: financial records, letters, photographs, everything she'd told them she had, hidden with her for 60 years. The proof that Ridgway's founding fathers were thieves and murderers. The town didn't know what to do with this information. The men were dead. The families were respected. The buildings bearing their names still stood. The truth was uglier than anyone wanted to admit. But Sarah Harper got her burial, proper funeral, stone with her name on it, finally found, finally freed. That night at 9:47 p.m. I waited, tense, Listening, silence, no voices, no struggle, no murder replaying in my ears, just silence. I went to the Historical Society basement the next day. The box in the corner, Town Council 1962 discard, was gone, not moved, gone like it had never existed. The tape player Mr. Patterson had used to digitize the recording. He called me that afternoon. "Strangest thing," he said. "That recording you made, the file corrupted. Nothing but static now. Did you keep a backup?" I hadn't, and somehow I knew I'd never find one. Sarah Harper's story was known now, documented. In the newspaper, in police reports, in the historical record. She wasn't forgotten anymore, wasn't disappeared. And because she wasn't forgotten, she didn't need to keep screaming. Sometimes justice comes 60 years late. Sometimes the dead have to wait for someone willing to listen. Someone willing to hear their story, even when it's terrifying, even when it costs you sleep and peace and normalcy. I still volunteer at the Historical Society. Still catalog documents and preserve history. But I'm more careful now about what I uncover. Because some boxes are marked discard for a reason, and some recordings should never be played. But some stories need to be heard. I got the letter from my father's attorney 3 weeks after the funeral. I'd inherited the house in Sullivan Hollow, the house we'd abandoned when I was 12, the house my parents refused to discuss for the next 15 years, the house I'd convinced myself I'd forgotten. "The property is still standing," the letter said, "in surprisingly good condition, given its abandonment. You may wish to inspect it before deciding on next steps." I didn't want to go back. Every instinct screamed at me to sell it sight unseen, let someone else deal with whatever was there. But I was broke, grieving, and the lawyer said the house might actually have value to historical preservationists. I needed the money. So I drove back to Sullivan Hollow on a bright Sunday afternoon in October, telling myself it was just a house, just walls and wood and memory. Nothing more. The hollow looked the same. The road wound down between steep mountains, the trees already dropping leaves, the creek running alongside the road in shadowed pools. Our driveway was overgrown but passable. And there, at the end, stood the house. It looked perfect. Like we just left yesterday instead of 15 years ago. The white paint was clean. The windows were intact. The porch had no rot, no decay. Even the garden had been maintained, somehow mums blooming in neat beds, grass trimmed, flower boxes full. Impossible. The house had been abandoned. No caretaker, no maintenance. It should have been a ruin. But it looked like someone lived there, cared for it, loved it. My hands trembled as I unlocked the front door with the keys the attorney had provided. The hinges didn't even squeak. Inside, the air smelled clean, not musty or moldy or stale, just normal, like I'd just come home from school. The living room was exactly as I remembered. Same couch, same coffee table, same framed photos on the mantel, my school picture from 6th grade, my sister Emily's 8th grade graduation photo. The TV was an old CRT model from the 90s, the kind nobody had anymore. Everything was period correct to 2008, the year we left. "Hello," my voice echoed strangely. "Anyone here?" Then I heard it, from upstairs. My mother's voice, distant but clear. "Marcus, dinner in 20 minutes. Stop playing those video games and finish your homework." Marcus, my childhood name. I'd gone by Mark since high school, but my mother had always called me Marcus. My heart hammered. Someone was in the house. Squatters, maybe, playing a sick joke. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course not. Sullivan Hollow had always been a dead zone. "Who's there?" I called up the stairs. "This is private property, I'm the owner." No response, but I heard more sounds now. A TV playing cartoons, water running in the kitchen, my sister's voice singing off-key to some pop song from 2008, normal house sounds, family sounds. I climbed the stairs slowly. The second-floor hallway stretched ahead, doors open to familiar rooms. My old bedroom, Emily's room, my parents' master suite. The bathroom where I'd spend an hour every morning trying to manage my 12-year-old hair. Movement in Emily's doorway. A flash of blonde hair, a 14-year-old girl in jeans and a Jonas Brothers t-shirt ducking back into her room. "Emily," I whispered. I walked to her doorway and looked inside. The room was exactly as she'd kept it 15 years ago. Posters of bands I'd forgotten. Stuffed animals on the bed. A laptop open on the desk, the chunky mid-2000s kind. And sitting cross-legged on the bed, texting on a flip phone, was my sister. At 14, the age she'd been when we left, I stumbled backward. This wasn't real, couldn't be real. Emily was 29 now, married, living in Nashville. This was, what? A hallucination, a dream, but she looked so real. Solid. Present. She glanced up at me, annoyed. "What? Get out of my room, Marcus." My voice cracked. "What's happening?" She rolled her eyes, the exact expression she'd perfected at 14. "God, you're so weird. Get out." She threw a pillow at me. It hit my chest with real weight, real force. I fled to my own room. The door still had my name on it in stick-on letters, half peeled. Inside, the room was a time capsule. My Pokémon posters. My Nintendo DS charging on the desk. My homework laid out, dated October 2008. And my backpack, thrown in the corner, covered in band patches and inside jokes I'd forgotten I'd ever written. On the desk, my 12-year-old handwriting on a math worksheet. Marcus Brennan, period for October 18th, 2008. October 18th, 2008, the day before we left. The last normal day before my parents woke us in the middle of the night, threw our things in the car, and drove away from Sullivan Hollow like something was chasing us. I heard footsteps in the hallway, my father's heavy tread. I looked out and saw him walking toward the bathroom, wearing his old bathrobe, the one my mother had thrown out years ago. He looked younger, healthier. The way he'd looked before years of stress and whatever had happened in this house aged him. "Dad!" I called out. He turned, smiled. "Hey, buddy. You finished that math homework. Your mom's checking it after dinner." "Dad, it's me. Mark, your son. I'm 27 years old." His smile didn't waver. "You feeling okay? You look pale. Don't tell me you're getting sick again." "Your mom will have my head if you miss more school." He walked into the bathroom and closed the door. I ran downstairs. In the kitchen, my mother was making dinner, spaghetti. I could smell it, my favorite. She looked exactly as she had 15 years ago, younger, happier, wearing the apron I'd forgotten existed. "Mom!" I grabbed her arm. "Mom, please, it's Mark. Look at me. Really look at me." She did, and for just a second I saw recognition in her eyes. Fear, horror. She opened her mouth to scream. Then her expression smoothed. The recognition vanished. She smiled. "Marcus, honey, wash your hands. Dinner's almost ready." The house had us. Some version of us. The family that had lived here in October 2008, frozen in time, playing out those last normal days on an endless loop. And we didn't know we were trapped. Didn't remember leaving. We just existed. Forever. I checked the date on my mother's phone sitting on the counter. October 18th, 2008. I checked the TV. News broadcast different stories, but the ticker at the bottom showed October 18th, 2008. I checked my old Nintendo DS upstairs. Save file dated October 18th, 2008. The house was stuck, and so was my family. Some echo of us, some residual presence, living out the same day over and over. The last normal day before whatever happened that made us flee. What happened? What did my parents see? What scared them so badly they never spoke of it, never came back, never let us ask questions? I had to know. I had to break the loop. Dinner happened like a fever dream. I sat at the table with my family, my 12-year-old self sitting in my usual chair, eating spaghetti, complaining about homework. I watched myself. I was there at the table and also standing against the wall, watching. I existed in two places simultaneously. My younger self didn't see me. None of them did now. I'd become the observer, the ghost in my own memory. After dinner, the evening proceeded exactly as I remembered. Emily went to her room to talk on the phone. My father watched TV. My mother did dishes. My younger self went upstairs to finish homework. At 9:30 p.m., everyone got ready for bed. Normal bedtime routine. Nothing unusual, nothing scary. I waited. Something happened after midnight. Something that made my parents wake us and flee. I needed to see what it was. The house settled into quiet. I wandered the rooms, watching my family sleep. My younger self small in my old bed, Emily sprawled across her covers, my parents side by side, my father snoring. At 11:47 p.m., I heard it scratching from the basement. The sound was soft at first, like branches against siding, but we didn't have trees that close to the house. The scratching got louder, more insistent. Not branches, fingernails, claws, something trying to get in. I walked to the basement door. The scratching was directly below. I opened the door and looked down the stairs into darkness. The sound intensified. Scratch, 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 rhythmic, desperate, hungry. "It's getting in," a voice said behind me. I spun. My 12-year-old self stood there, eyes wide with terror, staring at the basement door. "It's getting in, it's getting in, it's getting in." He started screaming. My parents rushed from their bedroom. My father grabbed young me, pulling him away from the door. My mother was already moving, throwing clothes in bags, grabbing essentials. "Now," my father said. "We leave now." The scratching grew louder, frantic. The basement door bulged inward, wood splintering. Something was pushing through, something that had been waiting, trying to get in for years, maybe. And tonight, October 18th, 2008, it was finally succeeding. "Marcus, Emily, get in the car." My mother's voice, sharp with terror. "Don't look back, don't let it see you looking." My younger self ran. Emily ran. My parents ran. Within 5 minutes, they were gone. Headlights disappearing up the driveway, fleeing into the night. I stayed. I had to see what came through. The basement door exploded inward, and nothing came out. Not a creature, not a monster, just cold, absolute bone-deep, soul-freezing cold. And with it a presence, hungry, ancient, wrong. The air rippled. The house shuddered. And then time reset. Morning sunlight filled the kitchen. My mother was making breakfast. My father was reading the newspaper. Upstairs, I could hear my younger self and Emily getting ready for school. October 18th, 2008. Again. The loop. The house was caught in the moment before the thing in the basement got through. Playing that day over and over, like if it never reached midnight, the thing could never emerge. My family was trapped here, living out the last safe day forever, a defense mechanism against whatever waited in the dark. I tried to leave. I couldn't. The front door opened, but outside was wrong. The driveway didn't lead up to the road. It just curved back to the front door. Every exit led back inside. I was caught now, too. By staying past midnight, by witnessing the thing in the basement, I'd become part of the loop. Days passed. Weeks. Always October 18th, 2008. Always the same routine. Always ending with the scratching, my young self screaming, my family fleeing, the loop resetting. I tried to warn them, tried to stop it, but they couldn't see me anymore. I was a ghost in my own memory, forced to watch my family's fear play out endlessly. I don't know how long I've been here. Time means nothing in a loop. October 18th, 2008 has lasted years, maybe. Decades. Forever. But sometimes, rarely, I see something new, someone new, standing at the edge of the property, looking at the house, potential buyers, curious explorers. The attorney sent someone to inspect the property once. When they come, I try to warn them. I appear in windows, in mirrors, trying to mouth leave or run or don't stay past midnight. Sometimes they see me. Usually they just think the house is creepy and leave quickly. But one day, someone will stay. Someone will be curious. Someone will want to see what happens at midnight. And then the house will have more of us. More ghosts trapped in October 18th, 2008. More witnesses to the thing that's still scratching, still trying, still waiting to get through. My family keeps living that day. Happy in the morning, terrified by midnight. Running, resetting, forgetting. Safe in the loop, never moving forward, never fully escaping, and I watch. Forever 12 years old in my memories. Forever 27 in my reality. Forever stuck in the house that wouldn't let us go. If you inherited property in Sullivan Hollow, sell it. Don't visit. Don't stay past midnight. Don't listen to the scratching in the basement. The house looks perfect because it's frozen, preserved, trapped, and it's always looking for more. The GPS said I'd already delivered to 47 Maple Street twice that morning, but I distinctly remembered only going there once. I checked my scanner. 3 delivery confirmations for 47 Maple Street, all signed by E. Morrison. All time-stamped in the last 2 hours. That's impossible. I'd only been to that house once. Hadn't I was halfway through my postal route for Ashford Hollow, a route I'd been covering for 3 weeks since transferring from the main branch. Mountain route, lots of winding roads, isolated homes. Good overtime pay, but lonely. The kind of route older carriers didn't want anymore. I looked at the next address on my manifest, 47 Maple Street. Again. What the hell? I muttered, pulling over. I checked the packages. 3 identical parcels, all addressed to E. Morrison, 47 Maple Street, Ashford Hollow, all with different tracking numbers, all marked priority. Maybe the system had glitched. I delivered this one and sorted out back at the branch. I turned around and drove back to 47 Maple Street. The house looked exactly as it had an hour ago, small ranch-style home, well-maintained flower boxes in the windows. I grabbed the package and walked to the door. Knocked. An elderly woman answered. Gray hair in a bun, floral house dress, kind smile. Oh, wonderful. Another delivery. You're so efficient, young man. Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake. I already delivered here this morning. She tilted her head, confused. Did you? I don't think so. I have confirmation. 3 deliveries, actually, all signed by E. Morrison. That's me. Eleanor Morrison, but I've only received 1 package today. She pointed to a small table in the foyer. 1 package sat there unopened. I looked at my scanner. 3 confirmations, 3 signatures, her signature, but she only had 1 package. I'm sorry, there must be a system error. I'll report it. I handed her the new package. She signed my scanner. The 4th confirmation logged. As I walked back to my truck, I glanced over my shoulder. Eleanor Morrison waved from the door, then closed it. Nice old lady, nothing weird about her, except when I got back in my truck, the package was still there. Same tracking number, same address, like I'd never delivered it. My hands went cold. I picked up the package, solid, real, still needing delivery. I checked my scanner. 5 confirmations for 47 Maple Street now. This time I didn't go back. I put the package in the undeliverable bin and continued my route. Whatever was happening, it could wait until I talked to my supervisor. The next address was 214 Hickory Lane, then 215 Hickory Lane, then 218 Hickory Lane. I drove slowly, looking for 216 and 217. Both houses should be between 215 and 218. That's how numbers work. They weren't there. The properties just skipped. 215 had a neighbor at 218. No gap, no empty lots. The houses were adjacent, as if 216 and 217 had never existed. I checked my manifest. No listings for 216 or 217 Hickory Lane. Just 214, 215, 218, 219. My route map showed the same thing. The numbers just skipped. I delivered to 218 Hickory Lane. An old man answered, thanked me, signed. Normal. When I got back in my truck, I looked at the package I just delivered. It was back in my hand, undelivered. Same tracking number. I checked my scanner. Delivery confirmed. Signed, time-stamped. The package was in my hand. My heart was racing now. I drove to the next address, 1978 Pine Ridge Road. Odd number for a rural route. Most addresses out here were simple 12, 47, 102, not 4-digit numbers. The house at 1978 Pine Ridge Road was a tiny cottage, well-kept, smoke rising from the chimney. A woman in her 50s answered the door. She looked surprised to see me. "Mail delivery," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Package for." I checked the label. "Sarah Brennan." Her expression went odd. "That's me, but you're the first mail carrier I've seen in years." "I'm new to this route." "No, I mean, they stopped delivering here decades ago, said the house wasn't accessible anymore." She looked at the package like it might bite her. "What's the date on that?" I checked today's date, November 2nd, 2023. She went pale. "That's not possible." "Ma'am, I died in 1978. She said it matter-of-factly. "Car accident, Route 9, happened on my way home from work. I've been here ever since." I stepped back. You're telling me you're a ghost." "You're delivering mail to ghosts," she corrected. "Look at your addresses, really look." I pulled out my manifest, ran my finger down the list. 1978 Pine Ridge Road, 1952 Mountain View Drive. 1987 Hollow Creek Lane, 2001. Ridge Runner Road, 1945, Summit Street. Not addresses, years, death years. What the hell is this? I whispered. Sarah Brennan smiled sadly. Ashford Hollow, population 847, has been for 80 years. The number doesn't change because we don't leave. We died here and we stay, and someone has to deliver our mail. This is insane. I'm delivering to dead people. Not just people. Look at who you're delivering to. Check the names against your town records. I had my phone. Shaky hands, but I managed to search. Started with E. Morrison, 47 Maple Street. Obituary from 1947. Eleanor Morrison, beloved teacher, passed away peacefully in her home on Maple Street. My chest tightened. I searched Sarah Brennan. Obituary from 1978. Fatal car accident. Every name on my manifest. Every address I'd delivered to for 3 weeks. All dead. Some for decades. Some for nearly a century. Why? I managed. Why am I delivering to you? Because the dead still need remembering, Sarah said gently. The mail is how we stay connected. Letters from people who died in other towns. Packages that never arrived in life. Messages we never got to send. You're our link to each other, to the world we left. Every route carrier eventually figures it out. Eventually. The word caught in my throat. How many carriers have done this route? 7 since I died. They each last a few months before they understand. Then they leave, and a new carrier takes over. I thought about the route, how nobody wanted it, how it had been available with great pay and overtime, how my supervisor had seemed relieved when I'd accepted. I'm leaving, I said. Right now, I'm done. I ran to my truck. Threw the packages in the back, started the engine. The GPS recalculated my route back to the main branch. Turn right onto Pine Ridge Road. Proceed 2-3 miles. Turn left onto Cemetery Road. Cemetery Road. I'd never seen that street before, wasn't on any map. I turned anyway. The road appeared, gravel and dirt, winding between dense trees. It should have led toward town. Instead, it curved back. I realized with growing horror that I was passing houses I'd already visited. 1978 Pine Ridge Road, 47 Maple Street, 214 Hickory Lane. The route was a loop. I was driving in circles. I tried turning around. The road behind me had changed. Different path, but it still led back to the same houses, the same addresses, the same ghosts. My packages were multiplying. I'd check the back of the truck and find more parcels than I'd started with, all addressed to the dead, all needing delivery. I tried leaving my truck, walking. But the forest was wrong, too dense, too dark, even though it was only 2 p.m. Every path led back to a house, to an address, to a ghost waiting for their mail. I tried calling my supervisor. No signal. I tried driving for hours, burning gas, going straight and never turning. But somehow I'd end up back at 47 Maple Street, Eleanor Morrison waving from her door, asking if I had another delivery for her. Days passed, or maybe hours. Time felt strange. The sun never seemed to fully set, but it never rose higher either. Perpetual gray afternoon, perfect mail delivery weather. I delivered to all of them. Every name on the manifest. 847 addresses, all in Ashford Hollow, all dead. Some knew they were dead, others didn't. An old man at 1952 Mountain View Drive kept asking when his son would write back. I didn't have the heart to tell him his son died in Vietnam in 1969. A young woman at 2001 Ridge Runner Road died in the September 11th attacks, according to her mail, kept getting letters from her parents who died in 2015. She read them over and over, crying, thanking me for bringing her family's words. A child at 1962 Elm Street, drowned in the nearby creek, got birthday cards every year from parents who died in the 1980s. He never aged, never grew up, just stayed 8 years old forever, waiting for mail that proved he was remembered. I started to understand. This wasn't punishment. This was purpose. These people were trapped not by malice, but by love, by the need to stay connected, by the desire to not be forgotten. And the mail carrier was their lifeline, but I wasn't dead. I was alive. I didn't belong here, or was I checked my own reflection in the truck's mirror. I looked pale, translucent in certain lights. My hands had lost some solidity. I could see through them if I held them up to the gray sun. How long had I been on this route? 3 weeks, I'd thought. But when I checked my phone, when it would turn on, sometimes it wouldn't. The date kept changing. November 2023. November 2023. Always November 2023. I'd been delivering for months. Years, maybe, caught in the same loop as everyone else. I found my own name on the manifest eventually. Saw it at the bottom of a long list. James Crawford, 2023 Pine Ridge Road. This year, my death year, I remembered now. The accident, the fog on the mountain road, the way my truck had swerved, missed the turn, gone over the embankment, the tumbling, the impact, the darkness. I died on my 3rd week of this route, died delivering mail to Ashford Hollow, and now I was part of it. Part of the 847, a ghost delivering to ghosts, keeping the dead connected, making sure no one was forgotten. Sometimes I see the living drive through. They don't stop. Don't see the houses, the addresses, the ghosts waving from windows. They pass right through Ashford Hollow like it isn't there, like we aren't here. But we are, 847 of us, waiting for our mail, waiting to be remembered. And I deliver it. Every day, every eternal gray afternoon. I drive my route, drop off packages, collect signatures from people who died decades before I was born. Eleanor Morrison at 47 Maple Street always smiles when she sees me. Another delivery. You're so efficient, young man. I don't tell her I've been delivering to her for years now, that I've died, that I'm as trapped as she is. I just smile, hand her the package, watch her sign, move to the next address. 1978 Pine Ridge Road. 1952 Mountain View Drive, 1987 Hollow Creek Lane. The route never ends. The mail keeps coming. The dead keep waiting, and I keep delivering. There's a new carrier starting next week, I've heard. Young guy, needs the overtime, doesn't ask questions. He'll take over my route, drive these same roads, deliver to these same addresses. Eventually, he'll figure it out. Eventually, he'll try to leave. Eventually, he'll realize he can't. And then there will be 848 of us. Population 848. The number changes so slowly, but it always changes. We're always hiring in Ashford Hollow. Great pay, good benefits, just one requirement. You have to stay forever. I made my living debunking paranormal claims, ghost photos, double exposures or digital manipulation, EVP recordings, pareidolia and audio artifacts, haunted houses, carbon monoxide leaks and infrasound. For 10 years, I'd investigated hundreds of supposedly supernatural phenomena and found logical explanations for every single one. So when I got an email about photographs that show the future in a small Appalachian town, I laughed. Precognition through photography. That was a new one. But the person was willing to pay my consultation fee, so I drove to Thornton on a Tuesday morning, expecting another easy debunk and an easy paycheck. Thornton was barely a town, maybe 600 people, one main street, the kind of place you passed through without noticing. The antique shop was called Morrison's Antiques and Ephemera, squeezed between a closed-down diner and a law office. Bernard Morrison, the owner, was in his 70s, nervous, and very reluctant to show me what he'd called me about. "I shouldn't have contacted you," he said immediately. "I should have just destroyed them." Destroyed what? The photographs. Marcus Reed's photographs. He led me to the back of the shop, past furniture and glassware and boxes of old books to a locked cabinet. Inside was a shoe box containing maybe 30 Polaroid photographs. Marcus Reed was a local, Morrison explained. Photographer, pretty good. Did weddings, events, portraits. In 1991, he started acting strange. Paranoid. Said his camera was broken, showing him things that weren't there. Weren't there yet, he'd say. 3 months later, he disappeared. Never found. These photos were in his studio. He spread them on a table. They all showed ordinary scenes around Thornton, Main Street, the church, the river bridge, the school. All dated October and November 1991, handwritten dates on the white borders. I don't see anything paranormal, I said. Look closer, at the edges, the backgrounds, the transparent figures. I picked up a photo dated October 18, 1991. Main Street, daytime, a few people visible. And there, barely visible, almost invisible, were other figures. Transparent, ghostly, like double exposures. But the clothing was wrong, more modern. Cell phones visible in see-through hands. A car in the background that was too new for 1991. Future people, Morrison whispered. He was photographing the present, but the camera was also capturing the future. People who wouldn't exist for years, decades. I examined the photos with a loupe. If this was a hoax, it was elaborate. The transparent figures were perfectly integrated with the scene, proper perspective and lighting, not obviously added in post. And these were Polaroid's instant development, very hard to fake in 1991. Could be a chemical issue with the film, I suggested. Light leaks, processing errors. Look at the last series, Morrison said quietly. The ones from November 1991. He handed me 5 photographs, all dated November 14, 1991. They showed this antique shop, this exact room, and in each photograph, barely visible, was me. Standing where I was standing right now, wearing the clothes I was wearing right now. 32 years before I'd arrived. My hands went numb. This is a good trick. How'd you do it? Hidden camera. You photographed me coming in and quickly printed. Those photos are 32 years old, Morrison interrupted. Look at the Polaroid itself, the degradation, the chemical aging. You can carbon date them if you want. They're from 1991. I looked closer. He was right. The Polaroid stock was vintage, the kind they stopped making decades ago. The aging was consistent with 30-plus-year-old instant film. Marcus Reed photographed you in 1991, Morrison said, before you were born or when you were a child. He captured your future self, standing in this room, investigating his photographs. My mouth was dry. Where's his camera? His studio hasn't been touched since he disappeared. Landlord couldn't rent it, said it felt wrong. Been abandoned for 30 years. I had to see it, had to find a logical explanation. This couldn't be real. Reed's studio was on the edge of town above an empty storefront. The stairs were rickety, the door locked with a simple padlock that Morrison had the key for. Inside, the studio was a time capsule, 1991 frozen in place. Dust-covered equipment, developing chemicals long since dried out, furniture covered in sheets, and on a central table under a sheet was the camera. It looked like a modified Polaroid Sun 600, but wrong. The casing had strange symbols carved into it, not any language I recognized. Occult-looking, but not from any tradition I'd studied. The lens had been replaced with what looked like hand-ground glass, and the internal mechanics had additional components I didn't understand. "Don't use it," Morrison warned. I wasn't planning to. I photographed the camera with my phone, documented the symbols, took measurements. This would be easy to debunk once I got it to a lab. Probably just a weirdly decorated camera, and Morrison had somehow faked the aging on those Polaroids. But I'd been in this antique shop. The camera had captured me, impossible as that was. I found Reed's journal in a desk drawer. The entries started normal, notes about photography techniques, equipment maintenance, client appointments. Then in September 1991, they got strange. Sept 12, something's wrong with the Sun 600. Photos show people who weren't there. Checked all the mechanisms. No light leaks. No explanation. Sept 20, it's not showing me ghosts. It's showing me the future. I photographed the church yesterday, developed the photo. There's a satellite dish on the roof. We don't have satellite dishes here. The photo shows tomorrow. Sept 28, I can see them more clearly now. Future people, walking through present-day Thornton. They don't know I can see them. The camera captures what will be, overlaid with what is. Oct 5, I tried to stop. Covered the camera, locked it away. But I can still see them without it now. The future bleeds through. They're all around us, living their future lives, and we can't see them. But they're there, always there. Oct 19 photographed the church again. There's a funeral. I can see the date on the program, October 19, 2023, 32 years from now. I can see who they're burying. I can read the name on the casket, William Morrison. Morrison inhaled sharply. That's my brother. He died 2 weeks ago. We buried him on October 19th. My skin prickled. I kept reading. Oct 27, I understand now. The camera doesn't just capture the future, it creates it. Every photo becomes a fixed point, unchangeable. I photographed Tom Harper's car on Main Street. The next day, Tom drove into town for the first time in months. He said he didn't know why, just felt like he should. The photo made it happen. Nav 2, this is dangerous. I photographed Sarah Chen buying groceries. She died in a car accident the next day. Exactly as the photo showed, same clothes, same time heading to the store. The photo predetermined her death. I killed her by photographing her future. Nav 8, I'm destroying the camera. This knowledge isn't meant to exist, but I keep seeing my own future. I see November 15th. I see where I'll be, what will happen. The camera has already photographed my death, even though I haven't taken the picture yet. The future is reaching backward, making itself inevitable. Nav 14, tomorrow I'll walk into the forest. I won't mean to. I won't want to. But the future I've already seen will pull me forward. The photograph that doesn't exist yet will force me to step into it, complete it, make it real. This is my last entry. To whoever reads this, destroy the camera, don't look through the lens, don't take pictures. The future should stay unknown. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you photograph it, you can't change it. The camera doesn't predict, it prescribes. Marcus Reed, Nav 14, 1991. No entry for November 15th, because Reed had walked into the forest and disappeared exactly as he'd foreseen. Morrison's face was ashen. He knew he was going to die and he couldn't stop it. Against every instinct, against Morrison's warnings, against Reed's explicit instructions, I picked up the camera. I needed to test this. To understand it, to prove it was nonsense. There was a single pack of Polaroid 600 films still in the camera. Somehow still good after 32 years, or maybe time didn't affect it the same way. "Don't," Morrison said. I aimed at the window toward Main Street, pressed the shutter. The camera whirred. A photo slid out undeveloped, the chemicals spreading. We watched it develop. Slowly, the image appeared. Tomorrow's date on a newspaper visible in the shot. Cars that weren't currently parked on the street, and on the road a crashed vehicle, wrapped around a telephone pole. The driver's face was visible through the shattered windshield, bloody, eyes open but unseeing. My face. "No," I whispered. "No, this is trick photography. The camera's rigged. You set this up." But I could see the date. Tomorrow. The crash time visible on a partially visible clock face. 3:47 p.m. The location, Route 9 just outside Thornton. "It's already happened," Morrison said quietly. "In the future. And now that the photograph exists, you can't change it. Tomorrow at 3:47, you'll drive Route 9, you'll crash, you'll die, because the camera has made it inevitable." I ran, took the photograph with me, left Morrison in the studio. I wasn't going to die. I'd prove this was fake, manipulated, a setup. I'd stay off Route 9. I wouldn't drive tomorrow. I'd lock myself in my hotel room. But Reed's journal had said the same things. He tried to avoid his fate. It hadn't mattered. I researched all night. Precognitive photography, temporal paradoxes, fixed points in time. Fatalism versus free will. Every article, every theory, every attempt to understand. The photograph sat on my hotel desk. My death, captured in instant film. I didn't sleep. When morning came, I decided I wouldn't leave the hotel room, wouldn't go near Route 9, wouldn't get in my car. If I stayed here, the photograph couldn't come true. At 2:00 p.m., there was a knock at my door. Hotel manager. "Sir, there's been an accident in the parking lot. Your car was hit. We need you to move it immediately. Police are here, and they're blocking emergency access." "I'm not moving it." "Sir, it's blocking the ambulance bay. There's been a heart attack in room 203. The ambulance can't get through. Please, it'll take 2 minutes." My hands were shaking. This was it. This was how it started. The future pulling me forward, creating circumstances that forced me to act, to step into the photograph. I refused, stayed in my room, let them tow my car if they needed to. At 3:00 p.m., smoke alarm went off. Fire in the hotel kitchen. Evacuation mandatory. I stood in my room as other guests fled. Smoke was seeping under the door. I could hear sirens outside. Fire trucks on Route 9. The future was forcing me out. Creating emergencies, circumstances, unavoidable situations. At 3:30 p.m., a firefighter broke down my door. "Sir, you need to evacuate now. The fire's spreading." I had no choice. I left. My car had been moved to the street, keys still in it. The firefighter directed me. "You need to move this vehicle immediately. It's blocking fire access. Drive it to the public lot on Route 9. 3:40 p.m. 7 minutes until the crash. I got in the car. Hands trembling so badly I could barely grip the wheel. I didn't have to drive on Route 9. I could go the opposite direction. I could refuse. But the fire trucks were blocking every other route. Construction had closed the alternate road, signs I'd missed when I arrived. Route 9 was the only way out. I drove. Slowly. So slowly. If I went 15 miles an hour, I could still be on Route 9 at 3:47, but nowhere near the telephone pole from the photograph. Traffic backed up behind me, honking, angry drivers. One truck riding my bumper, flashing lights, forcing me to speed up. 3:45 p.m. 2 minutes. I saw the telephone pole ahead, the exact one from the photograph. I slowed down again. The truck behind me honked, swerved to pass. Cut me off. I jerked the wheel, too hard. The car fishtailed. I overcorrected. The car spun. The pole was coming straight at me. I couldn't stop, couldn't prevent it. 3:47 p.m. Impact. I'm writing this from a hospital bed. Serious injuries, but I survived. The crash happened exactly as photographed, but I lived. The photograph was wrong, or I changed it, or... The nurse just brought in my personal effects. My phone, my wallet, and the photograph somehow uncrumpled, retrieved from the wreck. I looked at it again, really looked. The face in the windshield wasn't dead. The eyes were open, alive, looking at something outside the frame. And in the reflection of the shattered glass, barely visible, was another figure, Marcus Reed, holding a camera. Taking a photograph of me surviving. He'd known. He'd captured my crash, yes, but he'd also captured my survival. The photograph didn't show my death. It showed the exact moment before I lived. The camera doesn't just prescribe the future. It's more complex than that. It shows pivotal moments. Fixed points where futures branch. The choices we make in those frozen seconds. Reed didn't die because the camera made it inevitable. He died because he believed it was inevitable. He walked into the future the photograph showed because he'd lost hope he could change it. I survived because I fought it. Right up until the impact, I fought. The camera is still in Reed's studio. Morrison won't touch it, won't destroy it, won't let anyone else see it. I think about it constantly. About the futures it could show, the fixed points, the branching possibilities. I think about going back, taking one more photograph, seeing what tomorrow holds. But Reed's last entry haunts me. The future should stay unknown. He was right. The camera doesn't set you free. It traps you, makes you obsess over what might be, what must be, what could be prevented or preserved. Tomorrow will come whether I photograph it or not. The future will happen. All I can do is live forward, one moment at a time, without knowing where the next photograph will capture me. Marcus Reed is still out there, somewhere in time, still taking photographs of futures he can never change, still trapped by the knowledge the camera gave him. And maybe that's a worse fate than death. Knowing everything that's coming, but being powerless to stop it.